DNA is the key to who and what you are. DNA is the key to physical existence itself. The reality that you perceive and the consciousness you individually possess is determined not only by your state of mind and your state of awareness, but it is also directly related to the state of your DNA. As I've said to you on many occasions before, the human body is a biological computer, and at the very heart of this computer lies DNA. DNA is quite literally what allows the biocomputer, which is your body, to become manifest within physicality. And this DNA, though it's quite robust, but it can be affected and influenced by a great many things. Now, among other methods of control that have been employed against humanity, like I've just been explaining to you with this corporate system, in a physical and biological sense, controlling the state of DNA in an individual can also very much control the state of consciousness. And the manipulation of DNA and the intentional and quite purposeful damaging of human DNA has been done for this very reason, because if you can limit the functionality of DNA, you can limit the state of consciousness and the state of awareness of the people. Now, within modern human beings in the world today, the amount of DNA that is actually active is around 3%. And this low percentage of active DNA in modern human beings limits the human experience to only that which can be perceived by the five senses. And this equates to only about 3% of reality. The other 97% of reality, the 97% that exists outside the box of our five senses, cannot be perceived by most human beings today simply because they do not possess the higher senses that are required to perceive it. And this is due to a number of reasons, not the least of which is from the calcification of the pineal gland due to the consumption of processed foods and fluoride, but it is also due to the state of their DNA. DNA and consciousness are intrinsically linked. And this is why there have been so many attacks made upon human DNA. And this has been done through processed food, through genetically modified food especially, because obviously when you genetically modify the gene of a food, you modify the basic genome of that food, then whatever consumes that food is also going to find itself being modified on a genetic level. This is how the human race is being manipulated, one of the ways the human race is being manipulated. It also happens through electromagnetism. This is why they like people to have mobile phones, because being in that electromagnetic soup has a major effect upon your body, a major effect upon your DNA. A friend of mine and I were talking the other day, and we were discussing how many people wonder why the police are so heartless, why they seem so devoid of empathy. And you find that many police officers and many Secret Service agents and all these sorts of people, they all have these mobile communication setups. They have this little pack that they wear on their belt, and they have this little earpiece that sits in their ears. Some of these earpieces release up to 10 times as much radiation as a normal mobile phone. And this radiation very much affects people's oxytocin levels. So you find that a lot of these people are being affected on a genetic level. It's affecting their DNA. It alters their DNA. These electromagnetic fields actually alter people's DNA. So there's all sorts of methods being employed to attack you on a genetic level, to attack everybody on a genetic level. And this is a lot of the reason why all of these things are provided to people so cheaply. When you think about it, it might be expensive to go and buy a latest model mobile phone, but not if you take it out on a 2-year plan or something. They usually sell it to you for $1 or something like that. So, and this is because they want people to be in this electromagnetic environment. But I think it's getting close to break time here, folks, so we better go and have a break now. And I'll return and I'll talk to you a little bit more in a few minutes. Thanks for listening. Welcome back, folks. So these systems of control that are being used against humanity, these methods that are being employed to manipulate DNA, to manipulate consciousness, to manipulate what is perceived within the box of reality. All of these methods are quite simple when you become aware of what they are. And just being aware of what they are starts to help you see outside of the box of what you think reality is and what you think society is. You begin to see the systems of control that are in place. You begin to understand them, and you can begin to free yourself from them just by having this understanding. When you begin to see how the matrix works, how it is based on your perception of what reality is, it really does become very clear to see. And it becomes easy to see how quickly and how easily we could free ourselves from the systems of control that have been put in place. Everywhere I go, and all the people that I talk to, and I go out every day and I meet people every day, I meet new people every day, and 95%, 98% of the people that I talk to know that there's something not quite right about the world. I give hundreds of DVDs out to people all the time. I live in a town that has quite a large turnover of tourists from all around the world, and I give lots of them DVDs, and 98% of them are all very interested in the topic. And a lot of people I'll see in the future will come back and thank me for giving them the information. So I know that a lot of people are waking up. And this is very good to see, because the more people who do wake up, obviously the easier it's going to be to address the problem. And we need to address it peacefully. I always say this to you folks, we absolutely need to address the problem peacefully. There seems to be so much going on in the world at the moment that is trying to prevent us from doing so. There are so many influences that are creating instability in the world at the moment. Like I said before, you couldn't script this any better. I mean, you have to really step back and look at it all, the timing of all these things. I mean, obviously we've got all the problems in Europe that are going on because of the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. These people know how corrupt the International Monetary Fund and World Bank is, and they're trying to stand up against it, which is what we're seeing in Greece, and it's what we saw in Poland, which is why the Polish Prime Minister was obviously killed. And he was obviously killed, folks. I mean, there's no way that was a normal plane crash. But we've got all this going on. We've got the volcano in Iceland, just as they were saying no to the IMF. And now we've got this oil spill, just as we're heading for a major financial crash. We've got this oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And when you look at this oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, folks, it really is questionable. I mean, why on earth would they drill in an area that is like 5,000 feet deep in the ocean? This is really, really deep in the ocean. And they're drilling deeper than they've ever drilled before into a pressurized oil deposit, and they're not installing a safety valve on the line. I mean, if you're going to write a recipe for a disaster, okay, we'll have 1 cup of no safety valve, we'll have 2 teaspoons of corruption, and we'll have a pinch of incompetence, and we're going to bake a cake out of this. I mean, you couldn't write a better recipe for a complete disaster. So you've got to ask yourself, is this intentional? I mean, it seems ridiculous to even consider the possibility that there could be a mind on the planet that would do something like this intentionally, because, I mean, this is absolutely catastrophic. But you have to wonder, just because of the timing of the whole thing. But it's just that when you look at it with Iceland, and you look at the Polish Prime Minister, and you look at Greece, and now you look at this, you look at the financial crash, the timing's impeccable. So that just makes me wonder about the whole thing. Actually, things have been happening in my life lately that have been making me wonder about a lot of things, folks. I've had an amazing set of synchronistic events been happening lately. I won't tell you too much at the moment, but I've been in contact with someone who is talking about a code that he's found in the English language, and I've been looking at this, and you kind of look at it and you think, well, is this person reading too much into this code? But then things start happening in your life, and you start noticing certain synchronicities. And it was an amazing set of synchronistic events that actually brought me to this guy and brought me to this code that he talks about. But yeah, I won't say too much about it at the moment.
But it has really made me start thinking about things from a completely different perspective. Well, maybe not a completely different perspective, but it's kind of added a new depth to the perspective that I've already been looking at things. It's just that when you understand what reality is, and you start looking at the holographic nature of the universe, you start understanding that this is a mathematical construct. It absolutely is. I mean, it's the only explanation for everything that's in reality, and the way reality is constructed, it's the only possible explanation. So if this is a mathematical construct, if this is a mathematically based reality, which it very much appears to be, then it would stand to reason that somewhere within this construct there would be an identifiable code or algorithm that explains the construct.